let's stand and say pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Number 7, we don't have any awards or recognitions or anything this time? Okay. And at 5:45, we'll have public if there's someone there, okay?
Consent agenda.
Yeah, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? And we're down to 10
Yes.
action items.
Yes, you have before you a resolution that allows us to accept monies and allows us to apply for, or allows us and the county to apply for bonds for the elementary school. And you have the resolution there before you, so I am coming to ask that you approve the resolution for the application to VSPA.
For the $19 million worth of bonds,
Yes.
this is to pay through the elementary school?
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is it these bonds are compensating for the lack of approval of the increase in the sales tax?
No, this is just something that we applied for, or I plan to apply for, so that we could get the school built, whether we had the sales tax available or not. We had multiple avenues for financing.
Thank you.
How does the process go? Do you know the process? I mean, know we do the resolution. What comes next?
This will go to the Board of Supervisors for them to also approve it, so that then we can apply for bonds.
Do we apply? Do they do?
They're doing it.
They're
on our
doing
behalf.
it
Yes,
on
they
our
work
behalf.
with.
They
work
do
with
that on our
Davenport.
behalf?
Yes, they work with Davenport to do
And
such,
to
to
get
do
those
this.
bonds.
Yes,
Okay.
but we have to say
Say
yes,
yes,
this is what's happening.
We have to say yes, that it's okay for the Board of Supervisors to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Stiff, you had your hand up. Okay, thank you.
I had to look it up because I didn't know.
All right. B is we are required by our policy GBM to have a hearing officer for professional grievances. We have posed a recommendation and are asking the board to approve our recommendation for a hearing officer. Ms. Bolden has been our hearing officer for several years, well past a decade actually.
She's the only one.
Yes, she's the only one that we're recommending this time, yes.
I need a motion to approve the hearing officer.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
All right, all in favor? Thank you.
As far as C is concerned, that is the crisis plan. Mr. Good presented last month about the crisis plan. You do know that we have another, which I shared with you. We plan to redo, spend this time this year redoing the crisis plan. But in the meantime, we do need to have one in place. And so we're asking that you approve this crisis plan for 24-25, and we will keep the board updated as far as training on the new crisis plan template.
Make a motion to approve this crisis plan.
Can we have some discussion, please? I've got a couple questions.
You move,
But
move
you
a
do
second and then you have
second
discussion.
and then discussion?
Yeah,
Do we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. On the crisis plan, the assessment, threat assessment teams, on high school, it has TBD for the counselor.
Yes.
I'm not comfortable having TBD. I know we don't have a counselor at the high school, but I think we need to put either the middle school counselor's name here and, or one of the counselors at the, elementary school, because we had an incident last year where a threat assessment was conducted and we didn't have a counselor present. And I think it is very important that the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school understand that a mental health professional has to be in attendance for the threat assessment team. And so I'm not comfortable for it to say TBD, because that means that if we have a threat assessment at the high school, according to our plan, only the nurse and the athletic director are gonna be there, and the people down here below. So I would feel way more comfortable if we assigned, even if we put middle school or elementary school counselor, I don't know how you word it, but.
We can simply do that. We can say
Okay,
middle
right.
and elementary school counselor.
Okay, and that is,
And that would cover it.
that was my concern,
So then I am recommending that you approve the crisis plan with that amendment.
yes.
Is that in the area where it says Crossroads?
No, it's down further than that, where it has threat assessment teams.
Oh, counselors.
Yes, and then it has the middle school counselor's name, and then when you get to the high school, it says TBD counselor.
Yeah.
And I'd like to,
So we're
I
gonna,
need to make an official amendment.
No, I
You
just
did,
did,
okay.
I pulled
Alright,
it back
sure.
so that I am recommending that the board approve or certify the 24-25 PECPS crisis plan with said amendment to have the middle and or elementary school counselor present for threat assessment teams
At the high school.
at the high school.
Okay.
need another, Mr. Dr.
Suppose there's a threat at more than one school, will we be short?
Well, the threat assessment is when, if a child makes a threat to himself or to another person or to a school, they are brought in and it's assessed as to how dangerous or the threat may or may not be. The likelihood that even if you had simultaneous threats being handled at the school, those threat assessment team would not have to be meeting exactly at the same time. So to answer your question, you won't be, it wouldn't cause a shortage.
It would be highly unlikely.
Highly, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Didn't you second?
Yeah, I second. One of us second.
So, vote.
So we now vote?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, all in favor?
You made the motion.
No, it's the same,
I adjusted, I amended the
you
motion.
adjusted it and you,
Oh,
so who made the motion with the
Ms.
addition?
Stiff.
Ms.
Ms.
Stiff did the old one.
She also did the new one.
And
She
She
did
said-
the new one
Okay,
too.
Stiff
Yeah.
did, and you seconded it again.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Second.
thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Good, for your work there. Policies.
So we got another set of policies. The one that is, it's not a change from our old policy, D is in David, D is in David. This has been our policy, but it has not been our practice. This policy states that school board members, there are a few changes in it, but the overall is that school board members can call in and be counted as a part of the quorum and vote. There are certain guidelines that one is if you are a caregiver, if you yourself are ill and can't attend, you have unlimited amount of times you can do that. If you are the caregiver, spouse, child, and can't attend, that is a reason for you to be able to call in and be counted. And our policy had, you also can do it for personal reasons. I'm on vacation, that would be probably the most, most of the time reason is you're on vacation. But we have limited that to, I believe it's 3 times per year.
We changed it to
Or maybe we changed it to 4. Let me look and see. If you live more than 60 miles from the meeting location, you can call in. The rules for calling in and being counted is that you must notify the chair, who then, before the meeting starts, tells us, and then we vote to allow it. And if their vote is yes, then that person then becomes part of the quorum and can vote. And that's been, this policy didn't change, really. They made it unlimited for caregivers and for you being sick yourself. That was the big change. But that is a change in practice from what we've done. In the past, we've allowed board members to call in, but we didn't count them as being present and part of the quorum and being able to vote. Yes.
When did it change, actually?
It hasn't, this has been our
Because-
policy since 20,
There was a time where we couldn't
You
vote
couldn't vote.
So-
electronically at
Right.
all.
So when I came, so it's been about 9 years or so, that is what the board told me. There was a big discussion around not being able to vote electronically.
Right.
But even if that was changed verbally, no one ever changed the policy
Okay.
in writing. So what Ms. Kimbrough was talking about, it was never changed in writing.
Okay.
So it's always been the policy, but for whatever reason,
Right.
it wasn't the practice.
So we can't really legally do this.
no, legally, we
Legally,
should
we-
have been doing it all
Legally,
along.
we should have been doing it all along, because you never changed the
But the electronic part,
electronic as in, you're not voting on the computer,
okay.
you're using the telephone, and I think
Okay.
maybe that was the issue you're
That was
talking
the
about,
issue.
being able to vote on the
Right,
computer.
okay,
We don't do it that way, but if
Okay.
you call in,
okay.
you can still vote.
You can, okay,
Or if we had the capability of zooming you in, you could still vote.
okay.
But we don't take votes on the computer.
So what would have happened, it's what would have happened
But
to
for
me
you today,
tonight.
yes,
Right.
if you had not been
And
able to
really,
come.
technically, the way the policy is, I would have been able to vote,
Right.
the way the policy is
Is
now.
written.
And now we're gonna get to change that tonight, so.
Well, the policy
it's
has
written,
been
right?
written
It's
all
just written.
along that you
Right.
could have
The
voted.
practice.
It's just been the
Right.
practice of this board that we
Right.
didn't allow it.
Perfect.
And so I guess my question to y'all is, are you okay with people being able to call in, being part of the quorum and voting? If not, then this policy would have to be changed. It would then no longer be a VSBA policy. We'd be going against what VSBA recommends, and it would become a regulation. Am I right about that, Dr.
Yes,
Johnson? Okay.
absolutely.
Well,
So-
it's a Prince Edward policy, I'm not sure why it's a Prince Edward policy right now, it's not a VSBA.
This is a
Oh, yeah,
recommended
it does-
VSBA
it does-
policy.
It does,
Yes.
it does have.
So if we changed it, if we decide we don't want folks to be able to vote if they're not here physically, then we will have to change this policy. And also BDDL, which allows you, if you're on a committee, say the finance committee, do y'all vote in, does the finance committee vote on things?
No.
No, okay, well then, this probably doesn't, but it also allows you to attend remotely. If the meeting were in person, you could also, if you're on a committee, can attend remotely and be counted as being present. Yes.
Generally, I support it. My only concern is closed session. I don't know what the implications are for closed session. So like, we can't be assured that nobody's in the back, if somebody's not recording or something, like, that would be my only concern, not the people in this room necessarily, but that certainly would be something to consider. I don't know, the legal, I don't know, that obviously closed session wasn't with Zoom and things in mind, so that would be my concern. Cause the public stuff is all public and we live stream it and it doesn't matter if they're in a room of 100 people, right? But a closed session is just different.
You don't want anybody to
Beast.
overhear what we're saying in closed session.
I think
It
that's,
it has to be very secure.
to me, that's the trust that we have in each other as a board member of Prince Edward County Schools. And no one else, if it's a closed session situation, you're not gonna have anyone else in the vicinity that can hear anything that's being discussed. It's that part of being confidential, it's part of being professional, and I know I hold dear, so. And just the last piece of it is if I knew that my vote wasn't gonna be able to count or being able to express a vote, I wouldn't call in as a board member. So, and if that's dependent upon how the board feels, but I know I'm in favor of allowing to call in. I think that just shows unison, shows unity, shows, finding that individual.
I'm comfortable with it as long as it doesn't include a closed session. I think that's where I land, just because, I mean, I trust everybody in this room, but we can't control who gets elected where and when and in what context, and if folks come in for for a disciplinary hearing, it's just very, like, I know I wouldn't feel comfortable if somebody was just listening on the other end and I couldn't have any, like, I don't know, it just makes me feel icky and it could lead to some legal shenanigans.
So may I suggest that we consult our attorney regarding the closed session piece?
So we pulled
That
the
you pulled
BDD
that.
and BDDL, because they
Yes.
both mention closed session.
Yes, so it's BDD,
And BDDL,
BDD, and
DDL.
BDL. I will contact the attorney very specifically on that, in which case then the recommendation would be that you would approve all the
All
policies
three.
presented with the exception of BDD
And
and BDDL, because we were gonna consult with the attorney regarding closed session.
Yes.
Can we maybe even consider if, it is okay, just certifying that that the person who is not here as part of our certification, that they're not the one who's doing it remotely, that they are keeping it private.
They are in fact alone
That
and
they
in
are
a secure
in a
location.
secure-
I would like to get that language
Right.
from the attorney.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, if the attorney is gonna say it's okay, then the language like that.
So I will ask him for that language.
So the rest of them, we're going to,
Are we okay with the rest of them?
Right, well,
We need a motion. To approve all but BDD and BDDL. That would be the motion that is being entertained.
I make the motion.
Thank you.
Second,
Second.
there it is, not there, is it? All right, all in favor? All right,
Okay, that takes us to, are we at 11?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
We're like past five, I didn't, nobody walked in obviously, but we're past 5:45, so no
Oh,
public.
Yeah. You
But,
understand?
perfect.
Thank
Keep
you.
it rolling.
Okay. You both?
Yeah. Everybody.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Remind me.
For number 11, the strategic plan. This is the second read, and if you look at the strategic plan and go all the way to page 22, you will see the beginning of the metrics. And I say the beginning because this is what our internal teams have come up with for each goal. I ask that you take the time to look at that. If you look at academic achievement, goal 1, you still see awaiting data because we don't have the data yet. We don't have the official data yet. So please take a minute to look at these. If you have any concerns regarding them, then please email me so that we're prepared to discuss them perhaps at our next meeting. But that is what the metrics page looks like, or can look like. Do you have any questions for me regarding that?
Well, help, I just need help understanding
Yes, ma'am.
that, all right, so under academic achievement, under It says percent of students scoring proficient or higher on the, and it's
And
blank.
that's blank,
Is that supposed to be
No, it
math?
is not, that's supposed to be math. Yes,
Math,
ma'am.
okay.
So that's
We
an
don't
error.
know where we are this year,
Right.
and this, and so, rather than doing it by elementary, middle, and high, you are combining it
Yes, this
for
is,
all the
this is
entire
division.
division-wise. I'm gonna question whether, because, and I'm just gonna say it out loud, because our elementary school is doing so well, that may skew the numbers to look higher than they actually are for the middle school and high school. I prefer to have the metrics by school, since our goal is to get all 3 schools accredited. I prefer to have those metrics by school rather than by the division, but that's just me. And explain to me what is identified by PALS, those are folks reading below grade level, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, that's all, I think that's all.
That's why that number
Okay.
is decreasing.
I have a question too.
Oh, Dr. Arias?
What does new data point mean?
I'm sorry, sir.
What's brand new, they've never done it before.
We've
since
never done it
1992.
before.
Oh, okay.
Other questions, Dr. Johnson? Yes, sir.
Just one piece, and I can follow up with Dr. Johnson as far as
Okay.
on the renovations part. As far as I know, it mentioned about improvements to the auditorium, but maybe
I'm sorry,
the improvements to the auditorium. That
we had
piece.
talked about that as,
But maybe adding in there as far as where it's gonna be over the scheme of a 5-year plan, as far as potential other additional improvements to elementary, well, especially the middle school, high school.
so capital improvements for
Capital
the
improvements
middle
across the
and
board.
high school
Yeah,
specifically.
middle school, high school, as prioritized, as deemed priority wise.
Again, please take a look at them, please shoot me any questions or comments or thoughts that you may have. We will probably bring this back for a 3rd read, we're not bringing it back for approval. As I said, we do have to have it written, but we wanna make sure that you take the time to look through it and, everybody is clear. Thank you. God bless you. As far as VSBA, may updates and policies, Ms. King.
Well, there's nothing at all. There's a new policy about reading deficiencies. There are several new policies that we have approved that are because of the Virginia Literacy Act require them. There's one in here about for reading, children with reading deficiencies, and but in terms of anything major that changed other than cross-references, different legal references and or minor language changes, there's nothing in there. But again, please read them before we vote on them in September, okay? And I'll try to remind you to read them about a week ahead when the thing comes out, but if you would, because I will tell you that going through all these policies has been really, I mean, I know if you ever have, can't sleep at night, this would be a great way to help you, cure your insomnia. But, because this is how we operate. These are the policies around our schools. And so it does behoove all of us to know what they are. It's been a good exercise personally for me. I can't speak for anybody else that's on the committee, but, so I'm encouraging you, before you come in and we vote on it, that you actually do read it to make sure that you are in agreement with it and you don't think we need to make any changes. That's it.
Or if you have questions
Oh,
about
yeah,
it,
or questions,
please direct it
absolutely.
to that committee
Yes, ask me,
before we meet.
yes.
Yeah, Dr.
The IGBD, that is a policy that was that is a state policy based on Virginia Literacy Act.
IGBA,
BD.
BD, that is a new policy.
No, and it addresses reading deficiency up to grade 8. Do we
That's
have
right.
one? What do we do after grade 8?
That still has to do with our literacy plan, and we have committed to, we have a literacy plan that's K-12.
Okay,
But what is required
okay,
is through 8.
through 8, that is required.
Yes.
Okay.
So the policy is going to be as what is state required.
Okay, but we do have, but ours
That
is
is
gonna
what
be
we are,
inclusive
that is
of
what we are,
K-12.
yes, so
Okay.
we have it, we still have it in draft form, we need to bring it to you as, and no, I think we brought it last, didn't we bring it last month?
We didn't send it yet.
Okay, so we have it, but ours is more K-12.
Okay, is that something we would have to merge? Are we gonna have to merge?
No, we just made sure that we, for up through 8th grade, that we made sure that we have followed the policy,
Following that.
that we followed everything that, as far as approved resources, we just made sure all of that's in our plan, that's it. So no, it's not really emerging, it's more of an extension, I would think.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 12. Elementary school construction update.
Yes, this came from Mosley, some really basic things. One is the conversation around the bonds, which we had earlier. We have met to talk about finishes and exterior finishes, etc. So basically, things are moving along. Dominion worked on relocating the electrical lines. So the electricity was turned off in the elementary school for the one morning last week. The canopy drawings have been submitted. We're still looking to move in October.
When will the actual?
The mobile units be here. The thought was that they would be here mid-August, but I can't guarantee that at this point, particularly with all the weather.
Debbie.
Yes. So with all the rain and the weather, I'm not sure.
This is kind of off topic, but are we ready for Debbie in our current building? I mean, I know,
Our current building, still has roof issues. Our current elementary school still has roof issues, some of which we've had to address this week, over the last couple of weeks, because it's rained prior to Debbie, so.
but we're ready for Debbie, for when Debbie's over on Saturday, that we can come in and assess it. And,
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, our staff does that.
Right.
To look at the damage, if
And-
there is any
right.
damage and what we have to do. Oh,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
All right.
Any other questions about?
I didn't know if you meant any
No,
special.
no,
No,
just,
that's,
you know,
that is our
just like
practice.
standing ready for Debbie.
Oh, yeah, no, that's our standing practice after any major storm. We come, we check the electricity, the water, the ceilings, we check the buildings. So, okay, so that is Mosley's, you can read that at your leisure.
Okay.
Non-voting student representative, Ms. Kimberly.
Well, last year, there was a lot of discussion from community members in the community and in this board about how some students don't feel heard. And an article I read in the newspaper recently, it was on VSBA, about non-voting student representatives on school boards. And I started doing some research, and it is a major growing trend that school boards allow, and for most of the cases, it's a rising 11th or 12th grader. They apply to serve on the board. There are certain criteria that the board would outline as to who would qualify: grade point average, lack of discipline issues, show good character, and that kind of things. And then once the students apply, a committee made up of school board members would interview, and then they would be allowed to sit on the board. They would not sit in closed session, of course. But they would come in and we would encourage, they'd be probably maybe next to Canaan. I'm thinking y'all can scoot closer together and we could have someone, have enough room for someone there. But we would encourage their participation. Some school boards, even before a vote is taken, ask if they could vote, what would their vote be? As I read more and more, this teaches our students how real democracy works. There should be a mechanism for once they leave this room for this night, they go back to the school and disseminate the information to the schools, to their fellow students. But I think it sends a message that the Prince Edward County School Board cares about you. We want to hear you. We want to hear your concerns. And we want you to become involved in government and actually part of democracy. And frankly, the decisions that we make every month affect them the most. And so what I'm really asking for you is your guidance. If this is something that the majority of the board is interested in, then I would then suggest that we let the policy committee, since we've now got one, come up with a draft that we then bring back to y'all. And if you have any input about how how the student representative would be selected, we'd love to, whatever. I'd love all of your input about that. And then let the committee, over the next month or so, come up with a draft to bring back to you to actually look at. So I'm just opening that up as a suggestion. I think it would send a message to our community and to our students that we care about you and how you feel about issues. Yes?
I think it would be more, it would have a more positive reception among the students if they were allowed to elect the representative to the school board, rather than have it an appointed
Well, again,
position.
I would love that input. That's the kind of input we'd like to have before we came up with a policy, okay? But my question to you is do you think this is a generally good idea?
I
Yes?
think it's a good idea if it's really democratic.
Okay. Yes.
Having a student on the school board is not new. Baltimore City has had a student on the school board for years. And when I first came along, I remember suggesting that because I thought then, as I do now, that it is a positive move which would allow our students to be in leadership roles. And that's kind of the way that I see it. The logistics, yes, would need to be worked out. But if you're just asking if we think it's a good move and it's doable, I'd say yes. Go.
I love that, yeah,
You're in favor?
no other comments, yep, I would love it.
Okay.
I think generally it would be a good idea, but could we maybe extend it and maybe have a teacher also on the school board?
Something we can talk about. Will you let me look and see if there are any other school boards in the country and if there's any model that we could go off?
Sure.
Okay, I'll happy to do that.
Agreement, every sentiment, I think it's a very positive step forward to allow a student to be on there as a voting member.
This has come to the board before. We have discussed it. In the past, I didn't agree with it. And I had my reasons at that time, but now I've changed. I've changed my heart about, and there are some schools, they come to the state meeting, in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
The students,
Yes, and our
students
would
do-
too, wouldn't that be great?
they do
Yes.
come. They do-
To the
when they're-
VSBA meetings,
To the
yes.
VSBA meeting,
Yeah.
they do come,
They
they
come.
come each year, in November, and, they have their own meetings,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all set.
as well. So, and as I've observed them, over the years since I've been here, I've come to appreciate, what we could get out of, what Prince Edward could get out of having a student representative too. But, again, I have no reason for not.
I agree with it. I think we need to make sure the criteria is clear,
Absolutely.
you know, the guidelines are
Yes.
into place. And I don't know, it started maybe, I don't know, small and then hopefully it'll grow bigger, with more kids be interested in doing, you know, high school is
It
It would just be one.
Well, it'd only be one, you'd
Yeah.
only have one, and you'd have and some schools have an alternate, if that person can't come,
Mhm.
then the alternate shows up.
It's actually not that difficult to do, because there's a superintendent's student advisory. We didn't have it last year, but we'll enact it for several reasons, but we'll enact it this year. In other places that I've been, I've actually been responsible for helping students to select their student person for the board. So if you have a group of leaders already, of student leaders, that helps establish the criteria, help establish, you know, the questions, et cetera. And I've done that, and where the students do actually create the process and elect the person that they want to sit to represent them. So I'm in agreement with what Dr. Ariady said, that tends to be far more productive, but we do have mechanisms in place with student leaders, so it's not that difficult. In reality, though, the person probably wouldn't be able to sit if we're going to really engage students, what are we in September? Probably not until close to December, January.
Oh, by the time, and I'm sorry, I'll be
Which
honest
is-
with
which
you,
is
that I
fine,
didn't
but-
think of this last year. I mean, because if we had, we could have done this all last spring, and somebody could be sitting right here in September, and I apologize that I didn't really know it existed, quite frankly. I'm pretty new to the board, and so, but we will do a diligent job of coming up with a policy to bring to you. We also are not gonna draw this out for a long time, so that we can, I mean, my goal would be January. By the time we get the policy, we vote on it, and they do select somebody, it might be January before someone can join. If we can do it sooner than that, great.
They give them all in the spring.
Is there a VSBA policy on
I don't know that there's a VSBA
No,
policy.
but I
do
have
know they have
found-
training, but
Yes.
it's a great leadership opportunity for students. I think
Yes.
It's a
And
great
just-
idea.
You said you wanted to be,
Democracy.
you know, how kids are sometimes a popularity contest.
Yeah, but it's when they see the work involved.
Yeah,
here.
that's
So it's a great opportunity.
okay.
All right.
Okay,
So, thank you, and that's all. We'll come back to you when we have something drafted.
okay, so that takes us to the exit survey. You have two things. In your executive content, you have the actual survey and the response to each question. And then you have something that says memo executive survey with comments. So that you have all the comments that were written as well as the actual survey. The exit survey memo that you have that is public does a quick summary. It also shares, excuse me, that there were 39 surveys administered. We received 30 back. Then you have on the second page a sheet that is tan in purple, where you see the general responses from each question. I encourage you to look at the survey specifically, because I have not captured all of the nuances in this chart. However, once you see a question, there's a little number after the question. That number is how many responded, so you can't have more than 30. So, the first one, how would you describe your overall experience working in this school division? 30 people answered that question.
So those percentages are based on those 30 people versus, maybe the last one, name 3 reasons that might have encouraged you to remain an employee. 21 people answered that question, and so those percentages are based on that. It's the only difference between this one and the one I did last year or the year before is it actually has how many responses you got per question. This information has not been shared with staff administration yet, because I wanted to share it with you first. But it will be shared.
What's your takeaway from the survey?
Excuse me. My takeaway overall is that whereas there are some concerns, that a lot of those concerns are personal when you read some of the comments. But if you have 30 people, and it's only 30, I acknowledge that, and they answer, how would you describe your overall experience working in this school division? And 60 say very good to good, but everyone says other, well, no, let me correct that. But the narrative that you often hear is otherwise. It just makes me take a pause to say, let's really look at the numbers and let's really ask the questions. And if we're going to choose to accept the negative, then we have to choose to accept the positive as well. I do think there is still work to be done around how we support teachers. And that comes with just more listening about, well, what is it that, how are you defining support? What is it that you all actually need? Because we have done, you know, the fun things, the giveaways, the et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the things that teachers tend to value the most is time. So the virtual work days seem to be very, very positive. There are some things that we've done around time that seems to make a difference. But I think that is the conversation, and that's the conversation I'll start with and share this survey with my leadership, well, it's called the advisory. It's my superintendent's advisory that teachers are on. So that's my takeaway, that if we're going to accept the negative, we're going to accept the positive. Let's make sure we're looking at the numbers and we're really addressing what teachers say they need. And let's also really acknowledge, you know, some things are very personal to some people. And that would be it.
Question. Do we still have the teacher support person? Or coach, or mentor, whatever we were calling it? Is there someone that
We
has that?
do have instructional mentors. We have instructional mentors. I don't know, I'm not
That
sure.
work
And then
basic-
we have mentors that are paid to help newer teachers, or teachers that are not
So,
seasoned.
to clarify, we have like a person that, I thought we deleted those positions out of the budget, that a mentor at the elementary, middle, and high school, that their number one job is to support new teachers and all that. We don't have those anymore.
No. Okay, so we never had them assigned to a specific school. We had 2 and then 1 for special ed. No, I was able to figure out of general funds how to keep, or other grant funding, how to keep those people. So we have an instructional mentor full-time. We have an instructional mentor for special ed. And we have a part-time instructional mentor, so 2.5.
Okay.
One specific, so not the original
Plan.
configuration, but yes, we do still have those people. And then we have mentors for new teachers
Who are other teachers?
who are other, yes, ma'am, there are other teachers.
I have a question. This is based on my experience of having been on a great many evaluation committees at Hampton-Sydney. And some of them were deans, and the best deans would be the ones who engaged and talked to the faculty members, and when the faculty members had some achievements, either in terms of the students doing well, the deans would write a note by hand, and that meant a whole lot to the teachers, or the professors.
Yes.
And they would mention how this person kept up with what was going on in his classroom, and the students, when they left the college for graduation, that's the only time they actually met the dean, who would do an exit interview. And if many students had spoken of a professor in very complimentary terms, he would send a note to the professor, and that meant a lot to the professors too. And so I wonder whether there are mentors, maybe we should hire some mentors for the principals or the assistant principals, or so they can write letters to the teachers who have improvements in the SOLs, so they're not just scolded when the class has a couple of students who fail, but if the majority of them are doing well, that they get a note.
So you mentioned that idea, which I think is a great idea to me, last year when we first came on the board, and I actually tried it. I'm going to have to alter how I do it, because the writing of the notes is just, it's a lot. So I'm going to have to, even though you said don't, but I'm going to have to do some typing to get those notes out. But I did try it. I think it's a great idea. The principals do shout outs. Each school has its own way of shouting out specific teachers or departments when things go well. So that does happen. I am working on, I do shout outs through the PE3. Sometimes they're very personal for people who are doing great things in their classrooms for the division. So I do that through the PE3. And I'm readjusting, I'm figuring out how to send some of my cards through my printer, quite frankly, because just the handwriting for me was a little too much for my hands. So no, you're absolutely right. You're trying to make sure that recognition for teachers is more positive. Well, no, not more positive, more frequent would be the word. The other thing is the HR department is working on Prince Edward Teacher of the Year kind of program that has to be very specific to PE, Prince Edward, but that's an HR piece that she's working on for a year.
Well, I have a feeling about exit surveys that I have shared with you, Dr. Johnson.
Yes.
I do not, while I appreciate it's the only information that we have to go on, from personal experience with exit surveys and talking to others who filled them out, most of the time people don't want to burn a bridge, and so therefore they are not always completely honest. So that's my feeling about exit surveys. However, with question 6 is very concerning to me, and that is that, and only 11 people had the guts to answer it, which I think also speaks volumes for what the others didn't say. But the question is, please indicate any reasons related to leadership and support that influenced your decision to leave your position. Of those that answered, most of them put lack of support from their supervisors. And we hear that a lot, that teachers don't feel supported. And I think it's imperative, based on our turnover year after year after year, that we figure out what support they don't feel like they're getting. And I think the lack of autonomy in instruction, I get that we are bound by the state to teach the standards, and so maybe that is not communicated enough. I don't, but that is an issue. And I also think we need to really look at that last one where it says lack of recognition, which is something that Dr. Arietti just talked about. But I think it also includes, and it's in here somewhere, that people don't feel like there is a way for them to move forward and move up in their career. Because historically, there haven't been very many avenues for our teachers, to move their career forwards. And so I think while, yes, it's great that on that very first page, everybody was hunky-dory nice, I think we have to look very carefully at this page and recognize that this is a problem and that we have to address it.
In all fairness, I agree that page cannot be ignored, but I don't think any other page can be ignored either. And how people choose to respond, it is anonymous. That's why I had to fiddle around so that I wouldn't actually see these individual surveys. I think if we're going to take the negative, we have to take the positive as well. But I absolutely agree with you. Yes, we need to look at that question, but we also need to look at all the questions. I don't think we can pick and choose what we're going to say is valid and not. If so, then we need to throw out this survey and figure out something else. Which, you know, but we've been giving this same survey for years, so we can compare. Because every year I do the comparison, because I put in the new numbers. So that's the survey. And we do plan based on the board's recommendation. We have to find a survey for the fall, and we want to give one for the fall and one for the spring as well.
Mr. Thomas?
Have you ever done any kind of like climate study, forgive me if I've asked this before, like a climate, like a teacher, students, maybe some community members, just like perceptions?
That needs to happen.
Oh,
It needs to happen.
because I think that could yield some interesting data as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be a public-facing thing for all of it, and it might not be appropriate for all of it to be public-facing certainly, but that could certainly get us some more
But
data.
that's what we're trying to work on, because that can't be something that we just create.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it will have our biases in it, and I don't want that.
Gotcha.
And I agree with Mr. Townsend there as well. I think that would be to have an outside group reach out to the Department of Education, VDOE, Virginia School Boards. They are groups that will come in and
do the
as a
surveys.
school climate,
Yep.
culture team and provide, in a previous experience we had it done at all of our schools in order just to gather additional data from outside eyes that would help as far as, and they provided things that we were doing well, and also areas that they were just recommendations as far as improvement. They showed up as far as when the buses rolled in the morning, the buses rolled out in the evening, and they, like you said, Mr. Townsend, they included interviews with students, staff, parents, everyone involved in the school community. So I think
Again, we heard you all in the spring when you said this, so it is something that we are working on.
Anything else?
Okay, as far as the corrective action plan, the updated news is that the Board of Ed has approved to allow our liaison from the Department of Ed to continue to work with us, so we will be working with Dr. Shields again. That will probably start within the next 2 weeks.
And D happened again, oh, that was, I'm
it's-
sorry.
No, we were calendar.
We had calendar,
Calendar.
okay, we had calendar. As far as calendar is concerned, Labor Day, of course, September 2nd. We have our fall break in here, which is new to us. I think everybody is excited about that. That doesn't come until October, but it is coming. We will have, that is also around the time that we will be moving into our mobile classrooms, or mobile classrooms, so. Time is moving along. We are watching the weather closely. We are closed tomorrow, and we probably will be closed Friday, depending on what actually happens.
I'm praying Debbie does not pack as big of a punch as they say she does.
Board member comments?
I'll be brief. But Ms. Carson and I don't know if anybody was at any other schools, but we were at another school on the first day of school. And it was, I had not ever come because it's very early in the morning. You have to be there at 7:30, and that is really early. But I'm not gonna miss another one. It was great. And to see all the community members, Longwood cheerleaders were there, and the kids. I know middle schoolers do not want to show that they care at all about anything, because it's not cool. But you could tell they were glad we were there, couldn't you? I mean, they were, and anyway, so hats off. The morning appeared to go very smoothly. I didn't see any really late buses, and you know, it was a great morning. So hats off to first day of school, and I'm sorry that we're missing a day in the first week, but.
But yeah, we did enjoy that, and it's always a lot easier. We have more community people,
Oh, yeah.
and but we did have new groups as PE kids were
Were
there.
there,
They were there last time too.
but the Longwood cheerleaders,
Longwood cheerleaders.
they were, was that
Yeah.
new?
No, that wasn't me. I didn't cheer.
I mean, was that new? Was
New,
it?
yeah, they were.
That was
They
new.
were
I thought, I heard that was new.
Go ahead, Lucy.
Lucy,
This is
who's your
We'll
cheerleader?
get my cheerleading outfit
AKAs.
out. They were,
AKAs with
the
Oh,
AKAs,
AKs were there, yes.
and the Delta was there too.
Yes,
Thank you. And,
yes, ma'am.
it was really nice. It's shaking. If you haven't done it, 7:30 you had to be there, but that was fine. We were gone by 8:15 at the latest.
8:20?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it was nice.
it was good.
And even on open house, I did manage to get to every building. I helped out at the middle school, which is what I normally do. And then I left there and drove to the high school. It was too hot that day. And walked around their building and, you know, hello, how are you? Glad you're here. We're just wishing everybody a good year. They have a good year. And then I went to the elementary school, and that was really nice too. And they had people set up in there helping out, lots of volunteers. So just trying to be visible in the schools. So anytime you want to take a walk, you need somebody to walk with, let me know.
Same.
Just let me know.
Thank you for going.
It was fun. It was fun.
Still, is that the convocation?
It was fun.
You and Miss
We could have talked.
Convocation.
Yeah, convocation. Thank you for coming to convocation. Appreciate that. That was good. And,
That was good.
yeah, it was good. It was very good. All right.
Big breakfast.
Yes.
I had a couple of comments there, board member comments. Again, for our students starting back and staff, just a great week for them, excitement. Secondly, I want to thank the board team, everyone that had my health and thoughts and prayers over the last couple of weeks. Today was 2 weeks ago that just blessed to be here, so I'm thankful for the concerns and the thoughts and prayers that went up on my behalf, so thank you.
We are so glad you're better.
Glad to be here tonight.
Good to see you, good to see you.
Yes, and thirdly, just a request, it's something I can request, but I wanted to mention, just I know, and I should have done it probably in the exit surveys, is that our number of staff that have moved on to other school divisions, as far as that number, whatever it may be, as if that research could be done as far as that number that's left, as far as attributed to the bonuses, retention bonuses they would have received, and how much that is calculated to be as far as for the division, as far as maybe the board or whoever to consider what those funds could be used for this fall before those funds have to, there's a certain date they have to be expended. So,
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
okay,
It's how much money's left over, and what are we gonna do with it? Is
yes.
that what you're asking?
Yes.
You're asking about ESSER funds.
ESSER funds,
Yes.
that we didn't use for retention bonuses because they left.
I'd like to go back to board comments just for a minute to tell you all that I'm looking at some dates for a retreat. We talked about this last year in the fall. Hopefully one that we could go to Charlottesville or another place, not here, not in this building, not that we don't like this building or anything, but, you know, just somewhere where we can relax, kick back. and discuss the things that we need to discuss, okay? The legislature session, it's, BSB is September the 19th.
Yes.
If you want to attend that, please check with Ms. Seals. Okay.
So do we need to get, are you asking for dates from us, or are you gonna give us some
I've
dates?
got some dates. I talked to Samantha. I have some dates, but
Email us?
I'll email you those dates,
Okay,
so you'll have a written copy of it.
and then we can say, yes, I
You
can
can
do
say,
all those dates, I can do one of those dates,
Yeah.
and let you know.
And let
Okay.
me know, please.
And it would be with the anticipation of being preferably in Charlottesville, but maybe just off-site here locally.
Off-site locally, yeah.
Okay, okay,
And this is a case where it has to be all of us or they won't do it.
that's right.
Yes. Okay, all right. Thank you. I wrote those down so I wouldn't forget, and then I almost forgot. Okay. All right, correspondence, Dr. Johnson?
There is nothing, that we need to address in correspondence.
Okay.
We will go
It's
back
very
into
limited.
closed session.
Yes, we need a motion to go back into closed session.
Before we
Oh,
go back,
You wanna take this picture first? Are you ready?
If y'all are ready.
yeah,
What's the picture?
and then go out in the hall to try a minute break, go out in the hall.
I didn't know.
let's do that.
All right, let's
Let's
take the
go-
picture.
let's
Mr. 8080, Ms. Certified,
Yes.
Ms. Stiff,
Yes.
Townsend, Mr. Barney, Mr. Tackett, Dr.
Yeah.
All right, I recommend that we reduce student A's relocation from 9 weeks to 4 weeks.
You need a motion for this, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I move that we do that.
Second.
Mr. Townsend, second. All in favor?
Okay. I recommend that we reduce student B's assignment from 1 semester to 9 weeks.
I'd just like to make a motion that we reduce student B's relocation to 1 semester to 9 weeks.
Second.
Second.
I'll second. All in favor?
are you raising them?
Yes.
I recommend that we accept the personnel list as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I recommend that we acknowledge and accept the 4 religious exemptions as presented.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
That's
Need
it.
a motion to
I'd like to make a
adjourn?
motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Please.
Okay.
Okay.